In the labyrinth of true crime, some cases stand out not just for the brutality of their crimes, but for the chilling motivations that lie behind them. This is the story of Lori Vallow Daybell, a mother whose actions shocked the world, leaving a trail of death and destruction in her wake. Today, we explore her case in great detail, examining the events leading up to the murders of her two youngest children, the complex web of beliefs that may have fueled her actions, and the ongoing trial that could reveal even more disturbing truths. Buckle up as we take you deep into the chilling story of Lori Vallow Daybell.
Okay. And then what's your last name?
Vallow, V-A-L-L-O-W.
And your date of birth? And your phone number? And you live at the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I know this sounds silly, but it's probably the easiest way to start, is just to tell me what happened. And then, so you can start what makes the most sense to you, and we'll just work our way through, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions just to kind of clarify.
Sure.
So I know you talked to the initial patrol officer.
And he just got information. He didn't say anything.
So yeah, if you can just kind of tell me kind of what happened. It sounds like some of this may have started last night or something along those lines. So start where you think it makes the most sense.
Okay. Lori Vallow Daybell is a name that has now become synonymous with a series of tragedies.
I told you, it's a crazy question.
Well, so we moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he offered to give me a house here where all my family is. So we were in Houston.
Lori's estranged
and
Charles Vallow was also killed under suspicious circumstances.
We had decided to separate or whatever. So he's like, well, I'll pay for a house for you and for JJ and whatever, because he's all about JJ. He's never about Tylee, but he's all about JJ. Because we adopted him together. He's his great nephew. We adopted him as a baby. And so we adopted him as a baby, and so we've been raising him together. And he travels all the time for business, so he's used to just going back and forth. So he's always gone like Monday through Friday. So he came when we first moved in and brought me stuff from Houston, like a U-Haul. And then he hasn't been back. But it's all these threats on my phone all the time, you know, like whatever, all these things. And then he told me...
What kind of threats?
Just... You'd have to read them to see, but he's always mad at me, right? And he doesn't want...
Chad Daybell was a man with strong apocalyptic beliefs that he published in his books and shared with his followers. These ideas would eventually merge with Lori's own spiritual journey, leading to a dangerous alignment of beliefs and the eventual deaths of multiple people, including Lori's children. The first real red flag came when Lori's two children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, vanished into thin air in September of 2019.
Initially moved, he had said he was going to buy you a house, so you moved here with your...
Yeah, he was going to rent us a house.
And so you moved...
All my family lives here. So we lived here for a long time.
Okay.
And then he moved us to Houston.
Okay.
And we were there with my son. He was out of school. He didn't have any of his, like, services, his DDD, his anything. He, like, ripped him out of school and said, we're moving.
Okay.
And I didn't go with him at first. And he took him. And I let him take him, and I didn't file anything or whatever. And then he filed something against me and said, I'm only going to get supervised visits because I'm crazy and blah, 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 you know, the story. And so I just didn't talk to him for like 30 days and let him take care of him and let him see what I've been doing for the past 7 years, because men need to do that. You know, I have 5 kids, I have grown kids, I have grandkids. Like, okay, you're going to threaten me, but you're not going to let me see my child.
The disappearance of JJ and Tylee sparked a nationwide search, but for months, Lori remained uncooperative. It was only after extensive media coverage and police pressure that Lori and Chad were finally tracked down in Hawaii in January 2020. By this time, both children had been dead for months, but Lori's cold demeanor, along with her refusal to provide any details about the children's whereabouts, only added to the mystery.
I enrolled him in school there. I tried to start all his services, and it takes forever. You know, it takes so long to get that done.
There's no easy transferring.
There's no easy transferring.
You start from the beginning.
It's a totally new thing. And he didn't do any of it in those 30 days. So he just should have gone without services, without even applying. And I'm like, do you even realize? Because he didn't ever do it in the first place. I did it. Long story. I'll keep it short. He hasn't been here in a couple weeks since we moved in. He came He was very nasty when he was there, but he travels for business. So he went back to the Houston house, and he's like, I'm coming on Wednesday night, and I'm going to come pick up JJ and take him to school Thursday, pick him up Thursday, take him Friday, whatever. And I said, Casey wanted to come to the house, and I said, you can't come stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. She's a minor, she has to live here.
Yeah.
So, because he gets in huge fights up there.
Okay.
And she hates him. And so I'm like, you can't stay at the house, so I will book you a hotel, because he stays in hotels all the time because he travels for business, and the business pays for it.
In this video, we will be examining an important piece of evidence, the complete interview released by the Chandler Police Department. This footage offers chilling insight into Lori's mindset and gives us a glimpse into her indifference towards the situation at hand. Despite the gravity of the investigation, Lori appears unfazed by the accusations against her, offering explanations that seem increasingly implausible as the interview progresses.
Right? So I've done that myself for the last 7 years anyway. And I was a single mom before I married him with my 2 kids.
Yeah.
And he had 2 kids. We got married, tried to make a family. You know how it goes. Anyway. So he said he was coming last night. I said, well, you can't stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. And I'll get you a hotel and you can come play with JJ. But he goes to school all day.
Yeah.
I got him back into his school. His services, I met with the DDD yesterday, and they finally are getting his services back, but we're paying $125 a day to have him back at school because he's so out of his routine. He's been a nightmare on the floor, kicking stuff, hitting stuff, walls, like, he just ripped him out of his life.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just how he is, because he only thinks about himself. So. He says, coming to get JJ, and JJ's like, I don't want Dad, because he knows Dad took him away, so he was freaking out, right? So I didn't tell him he was even coming, like, Dad's going to come take you to school or anything. So he didn't bother me last night, which I was surprised. I was expecting kind of an ambush for him to kind of, like, come over or be just mean.
As we watch this interview, it's hard not to feel disturbed by Lori's lack of emotion. At times, she appears almost robotic, as if she's been rehearsing her responses. She claims that her children are safe and living with friends, despite the growing evidence to the contrary. There's an eerie sense of detachment in her demeanor, which only adds to the chilling nature of her story.
Then he came over in the morning and he's like banging on the door. I'm like, oh great, here we go, you know. And I was just gonna be nice. I was just gonna be nice as possible. And I had JJ stuff all ready for school. And so.
Do you remember about what time he got there?
He said he'd be there 7:30, but it was more like 7:40ish or 7:35. I don't know.
Okay.
But I remember thinking, looking at the clock, and he wasn't there at 7:30, and he's usually Mr. On time. Yes. So I was like, okay. And then JJ was like, oh, Dad. And then he was like, Mommy, and like ran to me and was like holding me. He's like, you're not taking me to school. And I was like, it's okay, Dad, I can just drive you to school. It's not a big deal. You know, just trying to make it whatever.
Calm.
Yeah, calm. And then he was just being real smirky and real like jerky, you know, to me. And I was like ignoring him, whatever. And so he was like,
But it wasn't just the disappearance of her children that would lead to Lori's eventual arrest. It was also the death of her estranged husband, Charles Vallow. In July of 2019, Charles was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, in what was initially described as self-defense. However, as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the circumstances surrounding Charles's death were far from simple.
So I got JJ's stuff ready, and he was like, well, and he's like this about timing. He's like, I'm leaving in 20 minutes, because it's like 15 minutes to the school, and like you can't get there early, they don't open the gates until 8:20 or something like that. And I said, well, why don't you just go now? I don't want him in the house. I'm like, why don't you just go now and take him to Burger King, because that's what he likes for breakfast. And he's very particular about food. Like, he wanted chicken fries for breakfast and a Sprite. Like, and I just give him what he wants, because if you don't give him what he wants, then it's like on the floor screaming, dragging him into school. Like, and he's big and he's heavy, and it's hard for me to handle. But anyway, so I said just go, and so he said okay. So I gave him a backpack. He got in the car. This is his MO, right? He always leaves something in the house and comes back. He never leaves the first time. I always expect my husband to come back into the house, right? So I guess he had.
Alex Cox, who had been involved in the shooting, would later die under mysterious circumstances himself in December of 2019, further deepening the intrigue surrounding the case. While the investigation into Charles's death initially appeared to be an open and shut case of self-defense, further evidence raised significant doubts about the true nature of the incident.
Because he's like acting really weird, like he's plotting something against me. Like, I'm like, why are you even here? Like, what did you come here for, you know? He's been talking to my other brother, and my brother came into town at the same time last night, and I haven't talked to my brother in a while, my other brother, and I was like, and so he was texting him on the phone when he first got to my house, and I'm like, why are you texting Adam? Like, do you even talk to him? Like, my other brother. And, you know, he's been telling me all these texts, like, you're going down, blah, 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 blah. He's blaming me for our marriage breaking up, and my niece getting divorced, and my friend getting divorced. He said, I'm a destroyer of families, because I want everybody to get divorced. I'm like, what would my motivation be for people getting divorced? So I could babysit the kids more? Like,
The true horror would come later. In June of 2020, investigators uncovered the remains of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan on Chad Daybell's property in Idaho. The discovery of their bodies brought the full scale of the tragedy into sharp focus. Both children had been killed months earlier, and their deaths had been concealed for far too long.
I set him off, like, whatever, and she's mad at me for always, like, going back, but we had JJ and he's special needs, and it's really hard. Like, it's even hard to take care of it by yourself.
So when you say he goes nuts, that can mean a lot of different things.
Right.
So, goes nuts like yelling and screaming?
Yeah,
goes
yelling
nuts
and screaming.
Like breaking
like,
things?
Yes.
Goes nuts like physical violence?
He's never really, besides like grabbing us and pushing us, but not like punching us or something. But with Tylee, he has gotten physical before. And with my grown son.
Like physical how?
Like got into a physical fist fight with my son when he was 16.
Okay.
And he came after Tylee 2 times in Hawaii.
Okay.
And like went like he was going to hit her, but then I got in between them. Right.
How old was she when that happened?
Probably 13 and 14.
Okay. So this morning he comes back in and...
He comes back in, I wouldn't give him his phone, he was screaming at me.
The investigation revealed that JJ had been killed by asphyxiation, while Tylee's cause of death was more difficult to determine due to the state of her remains. However, both children's bodies had been disposed of in a manner that indicated an attempt to hide their deaths from the authorities and from the public.
Reaching for it and stuff like that. And so Tylee came out of her room, upset, and she had a bat, and she told him to leave her mother alone, like, right? So she was really, whatever, and he's screaming at her, don't you hit me with that bat, blah, 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 blah. And then my brother heard all the commotion, because he was in there in bed, and so he came out into the main room, and I guess whatever.
What's your brother's name?
Alex.
Alex, okay.
And then he just started, he was screaming and he was super upset and whatever, and he's yelling at Tylee, don't you hit me with that bat, and blah, blah, blah. And so Tylee, I guess, I don't know if she swung at him or what, but he like grabbed the bat from Tylee and then went to like hit Tylee with the bat. It was, and I was right there, they were right there, and my brother grabbed him from behind, like just to stop him from hitting Tylee.
You go like this, like he grabbed him like...
Yeah, from behind, like just kind of to pull him back. And then...
In 2021, Lori Vallow Daybell was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of her children, as well as other charges related to the death of her estranged husband, Charles Vallow, and the conspiracy to kill Brandon Boudreau, her niece's ex-husband. Her trial was initially delayed due to concerns about her mental competency, but after a series of psychiatric evaluations, she was deemed competent to stand trial.
I was like freaking out trying to go around, knowing JJ was in the car, right? And so then he got up and he had the bat like this towards me, and I was going around the other side to try to just get out of his range where he couldn't hit me. And then I had told Tylee, because she was on the ground, because after he took the bat from her, she fell back. And so I told her, I was like, go get in the car with JJ. Like, I don't want JJ coming in to the house, or, and I wanted her out of the way. I wanted the kids out of the way of whatever this fight was going to be. And then,
do you remember what your husband or your brother were saying or yelling during all of this? If they were at all?
Just kind of, get off me, out, or whatever, you know, whatever. They were like don't talk to my niece about whatever. Like, it was, I don't remember specifics, but they were kind of both, they were kind of in the heat of it. I don't think there was many words that I remember.
So Tylee goes outside.
Yeah, she was outside. And
then what happened?
Then they got up from that, and my brother had like stepped back, I guess, and then Charles was coming with me at the back, yelling at me to give him his phone still, because I had it in my hand. It was all really quickly. And then when I went around kind of in the circle, then my brother was there.
When you said when you were going around and he was coming at you with the bat, how was he holding the bat?
Just like that, like backwards, almost in one arm.
Like he was swinging it backwards? He would have done like
he would have swung it backwards at me, not frontwards.
Okay, yeah.
He was a professional baseball player.
Okay.
So it wasn't a good idea for Tyler to get out of that.
Probably not the.
I mean, he played semi-pro when he was young.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I was kind of turned around, and we were all right there in that room except for the kids had been outside by that time, and I heard the gunshot. And
so you heard the shot? Did you actually see the shot, or did you just hear it?
I had gone around to the kitchen to get away from him, and so back around. So I don't know if you went in the house.
I didn't, so I'm a little bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, so I didn't see the shot. I heard it, and then I came back around and I saw that he was on the ground.
Okay.
And was freaking out.
Yeah.
And so I was just freaking out, and it just went into Mama. I'm like, I've got to go to get JJ to school. I've got to get to the kids. I just felt like I got to get to the kids. And so I just went outside and to see if they were in there okay. I didn't want them coming back in the house when all that was going on. And got JJ in the car, and he was trying to come in. And Tylee was like looking at me with like the crazy eyes, like what just happened. And I told her to get in the car and we're going to take JJ to school. And I just left.
When you came back in and you saw him on the ground, where was your brother? Did you see him where he was at?
Yeah, he was right in front of him.
Okay.
Like it all happened very quickly. I feel like I was there because I was right there, and like a second later. Like I just went around the kitchen to get away from him.
Did your brother say anything to you at all? Do you remember?
No, we were both just in shock.
Okay.
Like it was just I didn't say anything. I went out with the kids just to check on them first, and I was going to come back in maybe, but I didn't. I was like, I just have to get him to school and call the police and come back, whatever.
Did anybody say did you or your brother say anything at some point about calling the police or calling 911? Do you remember?
Yeah, he called me.
Okay.
And he said, are you taking JJ to school? And I said, yeah, we need to call the police. And he said, okay.
Okay. So he called you when you didn't come back inside, basically?
Right.
Okay.
Because I was like in the car for a minute, and then I was like, what do I do? And I didn't want JJ to go inside, and I didn't know what to do, and Tylee was freaking out. I was trying to get them away from the scene.
Understandable. And you may not know this, so, because I know you heard the shot, do you know at what point your brother had the gun? Do you know if he had it when they got in their first fight, or did he have to go get it, or do you know that at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
And do you remember if you ever heard your brother?
I didn't see him ever leave the room.
Okay.
So it was so fast. All that was so fast. Like him on the ground, rolling around, and I'm screaming. And
this probably happened in a couple seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it was like super fast.
And I don't know if you know this or not, does your brother normally carry a gun? Like, I carry a gun everywhere I go.
Right. Like, I know he's a gun person. Like, he has guns and things.
Okay.
He's good with guns.
Did you know that he had one with him?
No.
When he came over?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Because he's very, very professional with guns.
Proficient, professional. Responsible is usually a good
right, but responsible with guns.
And then, do you remember if at any time, so you were trying to get away from him, and you heard the shot. Prior to the shot, do you remember at any point hearing your husband or your brother saying anything to either of them?
No.
So my second very ridiculous question is there anything else that I didn't ask about or anything that we didn't cover that you think is important? I always ask that.
Now, as we approach February 24, 2025, the date set for her trial, the world waits to see what will happen next. The prosecution will likely focus on Lori's belief system, which they argue was at the core of her actions. We've seen how her relationship with Chad Daybell was central to the series of events leading to the murders, but there is still much to learn about the dynamics between them.
Just that, he was just so angry, like super scary.
Did you
know how you take your phone away from like a 16-year-old and they freak out? Like their world disintegrates. Like I've taken my phone away from a 16-year-old boy before, and he's like wanted to kill himself because like they kidnapped him. That's how it was. It was like it's something on his phone that he does not want me to see. That he was like freaking out, like to the point where I thought he would hit me in the back of the head to get the phone.
Okay. So you thought, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you thought it was possible that he was going to hurt you.
Absolutely, he was going to hurt me and Tylee.
Okay.
Not JJ. He would never hurt JJ.
Okay.
And he hurt my brother. Like he was going like ballistic about. It was bad.
Okay. I'm gonna go talk to her real quick.
Okay.
And then if obviously, we'll be here for a little bit, hopefully not too much longer. But if you think of anything or there's anything that kind of pops in your head.
As we move closer to the trial date, many questions still remain. What was the full extent of Lori's involvement in the deaths of her children? Was she merely a pawn in Chad Daybell's apocalyptic plans, or was she a willing participant in these heinous acts? And what will the trial reveal about her true motivations and mental state?
And then go from there.
Okay.
Okay. And then, is there anybody that you need to call or anything, or you want to wait a little bit?
I don't know what I would say.
No. And wait a little bit, we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know what I would say.
And if you want to, you can think about it. So we do have victim services that work within the police department. They're right over here. They're not cops, they're civilians. And they do, Jessica, who is out there with the fire department, so they're kind of our crisis response. They come right away. So our victim services that work in the department are kind of more long-term type support systems. So they're just a really good resource because they do a lot of stuff with our families and things like that, and can help with support services and questions you might have.
She's been through so much.
So it might be a good idea.
I just can't stand for her to have to go through all this.
Yeah, it might be a good idea maybe before I take you guys back today that I get one of them to come in and maybe sit and talk with you guys and see. And it's not something there's a bunch of stuff they can offer, but it's good to have a contact and like a name and a face and a phone number.
That'd be good.
That way maybe a couple days from now, a week from now, or if there's something going on or you think you need help with something, it may not be something that's necessarily up like me and my partner's alley, but it very much may be up theirs. So I'd like for you to meet one of them before we leave. That way, hopefully if there's something that they can help you and your daughter with, they can, or even JJ or whatever else.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I hadn't even thought about him.
Yeah. So.
I mean, he's used to him not being there, but he wouldn't understand even if you told him.
Right.
Like, that somebody passed away, he doesn't understand what
that means. Well, I mean, it's hard at 7 to understand that
anyway. That's true, but with him he just doesn't, which is probably better because he doesn't comprehend things, but I don't know, it's a lot to think about.
Yeah. So let me go find one of them, and then we'll make sure that you guys get to meet with them before you leave, because that might be something very helpful for you.
Lori Vallow Daybell's case is one that will be remembered for years to come, not only for the tragedy it represents, but for the dark and disturbing ideologies that drove it. As the trial looms ever closer, we will continue to follow this story and bring you the latest updates. Until then, thank you for joining us as we unravel the chilling details of one of the most horrifying cases in recent history. Stay tuned, and as always, stay safe.